What is up, Goat World? Arts and Crafts here, excited to bring you the first episode of some in-depth Goat Format War League playoff coverage. If you're unaware of what Goat Format War League is, it is a team league-style Goat Format competition where each week, each of these 22 teams in the league will field a 5-person roster against another team in their conference here. You can see everyone's split into either blue or red. Each player will play up against the player they're matched up against. And whichever team wins at least 3 out of those 5 individual matches will take the win for that week, improving their record in the regular season. After you've played every team in your conference at once, after 11 weeks of the regular season, the top 10 teams by record qualify for a single elimination playoff bracket, with the winning team earning qualification towards the GOAT Format World Championship in the fall of this year. So very high stakes, very competitive event, very prestigious, with many of the top players around the world participating in every season. So this is the standings at the end of the 11-week regular season, at the end of season 6 of the GOAT Format War League. Like I mentioned before, the top 10 teams qualify for the playoffs, but the way it works exactly is the top 3 teams from each conference qualify directly for the quarterfinals, with the other 4 teams, regardless of conference, duking it out in a wild card round to figure out who the last 2 teams in the quarterfinals are going to be. So quick recap of the regular season here. You can see in the blue conference, the top 3 teams that qualify directly to the quarterfinals are going to be Bug Catchers as the 1 seed with a very solid 8-2 record, followed by Bomb Squad and Masters of Oz coming in at 7-3. The defending War League champions from Season 5, Rico Act, are going to squeak into the postseason with a 6-4 record in the wildcard spot, but the ability to defend their title is still live here. Now, moving down to the red conference, you can see Bones Generation, solid 8-2 record coming in the top slot down in that conference. However, there were a smattering of teams with a 6-4 record, so it had to go to tiebreakers to determine who is going to qualify directly to the quarterfinals, who's going to make it into the wildcard round, or, unfortunately for FGF IDGAF, I'll leave it up as an exercise to the listener as to what exactly that stands for. Despite having a 6-4 record, they did miss out on postseason qualification due to tiebreakers, so better luck next year for them. So this is kind of what the bracket is going to shape up to be. Like I mentioned before, we do have the wild card round before we move straight on to the quarterfinal. So you can see, once again, defending champions Rico Act as the 6th seed are going to take on Carbom Nara from the red conference as the 10 seed. And then in the other wild card round matchup, which I want to do a deep dive in today, is a red conference rematch between 4Hunnids in the 8 seed versus B.A.D.S in the 9 seed. Now, there is a reseed after the wildcard round, so depending on the exact results of these wildcard matches, it'll determine how the quarterfinal shapes up. But this is essentially what the bracket will look like, pending these 2 rounds, which are currently ongoing. So like I mentioned, wanted to do a deep dive into specifically 400s versus B.A.D.S. We'll do Rico versus Carbom Nara in a future episode. But to give you guys a little bit more context into the round, I wanted to do a little bit of an analysis of each of the 2 teams. So 400s here, like I mentioned, 8 seed, fighting for their life in the wildcard round here. They finished the regular season with a very respectable 6-4 record. A little bit of an up and down season, had to fight back from an 0-2 start against the Bones Generation and Damage Step, but quickly made it 2-2, and then went on quite the run here with 4 straight wins on the other side of their bye week to end up sealing the deal with the 6-4 record. Now, importantly, they did drop a match to Carbom Nara in the final week of the regular season, week 11, which did prevent them from qualifying directly to the quarterfinals. If they won this match, they would have been able to skip the wildcard round. And notably, Carbom Nara getting the win here did allow them to squeak in also into the wildcard round. So very, very important regular season match that's going to have a lot of ramifications for how the playoffs play out, most likely. Now, wanted to do a little bit of a dive into what sort of decks this team likes to play, because players have to submit their lists before they know exactly who they're playing against, or at least the individual pairings. So you need to kind of have a holistic view of what strategies you're likely to face off against in order to accurately prep for what the opposing team might be able to bring to the table. So kind of unsurprisingly here, 4Hunnids is definitely primarily a Chaos Turbo team that is pretty standard in GOAT format, generally considered the best deck in the format. So very rare to see very rare to see a team that's not bringing Chaos Turbo at least some significant percentage of the time, 40% of the time, pretty much exactly, for 400 specifically. I did want to point out, though, they also play a good chunk of Warrior, though, whether it's Standard Warrior or the Chaos variant. They're actually playing some sort of Warrior list more often combined than they are playing Chaos Turbo. So this is a team that likes to get their aggro on, which could be very fun to watch. Now, they do have a smattering of some other kind of lower tier lists. Notably, they don't play a lot of Chaos Control, despite it being one of the strongest decks in the format. I think generally people consider kind of the top tier or top like tier and a half of decks, depending on how you separate them, to be Chaos Turbo, Warrior, Chaos Control, in probably that order, right? So it does seem like 400's a little bit under indexing on the control side of things, prefers more aggressive strategies like Warrior and Chaos Warrior, and notably also doesn't play a lot of the like tier 2 and below, even rogue strategies, stuff like Reasoning Gate combos, stuff like Panda Burn, kind of the more unfair decks of the format. So it does mean that this team could be a little bit easier to prep for than some of the other teams that like to play a little bit more of the weird stuff, because you can be pretty, confident going into a match against 400s that they're going to be bringing some sort of fair list. So you don't have to bring in some of the more niche side deck cards potentially that you would for some of those, weirder matchups, right? Now, to give you guys a preview of the roster, so I wanted to call out all the players on the roster that they could potentially field in the playoffs. It is a six-team roster that you field in the playoffs compared to 5 in the regular season. And the format is actually a little bit different. It's a little bit more fun in that instead of each player just playing a single match and you tally up the scores for both teams, it's actually a survival style war here in the playoffs where both teams field a 6-person roster. They each play against one player on the other team. The loser is eliminated, and the winner will then continue on to play in future rounds, matching up against a winner from the other team. And you keep going until every player on one team has lost. So you can get these really cool storylines where like one player is able to essentially solo the entire opposite team, getting them the win in the playoff. Really, really cool. You play until it's the last man standing, essentially. So roster depth is going to matter a little bit more in the playoffs compared to the regular season because you need to field 6 people instead of 5. But there's also the potential for just one person to really just hard carry you if they're able to just win, 5-6 matches in a row and take out the entire enemy team single-handedly. So wanted to call out here, the league also keeps tabs on the players with the best individual records throughout the season to help qualify for an MVP tournament that will happen later. And so there are 2 players on 400s that I think are towards the top of that MVP standings. Ladder Champ, aka Danny Cassie, is a GOAT format veteran here. They finished the regular season with an 8-2 record, having them fall in the 3rd place in the MVP rankings, so one of the best players in the league so far this season. Very, very solid. They also had a very impactful late season pickup here, Yada88, who only played 3 weeks with 400 so far, did go undefeated though, 3-0. If you combine this with the record from the team that they were on previous to 400s, they were 7-2 overall this season, which had them fall in the 9th spot in the MVP rankings. So 2 very heavy hitters here for 400s. Definitely would expect them both to get rostered here for the playoffs and try and lead the team to a solid victory. In terms of decks, Danny Cassie, aka Ladder Champ, they are primarily a Chaos Turbo player, but in typical 400s fashion, does like to play a little bit of Warrior now and then. Yada88 likes to switch it up a lot. They play Chaos Control, they play Chaos Warrior, they play Chaos Turbo. So definitely likes the Chaos Shell, but can kind of go around, the spectrum of aggressive to mid-range to control to make it kind of difficult to prep against. There was also, wanted to point out, another pretty significant mid-season pick'em for 400s, Leo P. Huncho, primarily known for their GOAT control. strategy, but also plays warrior a little bit. And I actually think these were two very, very solid mid-season pickups, not just because they're two very good players, but also if you look at, kind of the metagame chart here for 400s, like I mentioned, they are a little bit light on control players. So picking up two of the more accomplished ones in the league definitely helps kind of even out their matchup matrix. And now they kind of have two pretty real threats that are able to bring out more controlling strategies to make it more difficult to prep against. Other notable players here, we've got Pikatron, the Chaos Warrior one-trick. Very, very unique list. Definitely would recommend watching some Pikatron matches in your own time if you like this format. Very cool deck, tailored pretty specifically to their own playstyle, which is very unique. Lucas here, also pretty solid record so far, 4-4. Trotting out a lot of warriors, as 400s like to do, but also a little bit of Chaos Turbo. So some pretty solid players here. However, like I mentioned, you can only field 6 out of these 10 players, so going to be a little bit tough to decide who to cut because a lot of really strong players for this team. Now let's move over to Team B.A.D.S. So now this is, I think, mostly, if not completely, a team of Greek players, which is pretty cool. A little bit of national pride for any Greek fans out there that this team is doing so well this season. They also finished the regular season with a 6-4 record. A little bit opposite of a season trajectory compared to 400s, though. They actually started out 5-1 through the first 6 weeks, so very, very top of the leaderboard early on, but then hit a bit of a rough patch in the middle of the season, dropping 3 straight losses in a row. Did close out their season, though, with a win in Week 10, right before their Week 11 bye, to solidify that 6-4 record and the playoff berth. However, notably, they did lose to 400s in Week 8, so we have seen this matchup already this season. This is a Red Conference rematch. 400s did take it down in the regular season, so B.A.D.S may be looking a little bit for some redemption here. If we take a look at their deck breakdown, they, of course, play a good amount of Chaos Turbo, but kind of the opposite to 400s, they do play a lot of Chaos Control here as well. This is a very control-centric deck, control-centric team, playing it as often as Chaos Turbo, which is pretty interesting. They do play Warrior a decent amount of the time, so you can't rule that out. And also notably, and once again in contrast to 400s, they seem to very much not be afraid to play some of those tier 2 or even rogue strategies that make it very, very difficult to prep against. You can see them playing Reasoning Gate a good chunk of the time, Earth Aggro, Ritual Chaos, Panda Burn, all very powerful decks, maybe not tier 1 or tier 1.5 decks, but all ones that you definitely need to respect and can take down matches against these best decks in the format. Also wanted to point out, there was one game played on Machine Gate that was a dub as well. Really fun rogue strategy that can do some cool plays. I think it just goes to show, and it exemplifies how this team is able to just kind of bring anything to the table, really keep the opponents on their toes, and it's going to make it a little bit, rough to prep against, I think. Another thing I want to point out is also, if you kind of subscribe, and I know it's probably not 100% true, but there is kind of a concept in the format that at the top levels, there is a little bit of like a rock, paper, scissors element going on, with Chaos Turbo beating Control, who beats Warrior, who then beats Turbo. If you just look at the two, deck spreads of both of these lists, on paper, it seems like B.A.D.S would be favored, right? Because they play a lot of Chaos Control, whereas 400s likes to play a lot of Warrior. Control tends to do a little bit better against Warrior than some of the other strategies. So like I said, on paper, B.A.D.S may be a little bit favored against 400s. However, we did see 400s win the regular season matchup, so really could be anyone's game here in the wildcard round. Now to do a little bit of a deep dive into the rosters here, the shining star for the team this season has been Cape Tanicus, 24th rank in the MVP standings at the end of the regular season, with a very respectable 6-3 record. And they're doing this on a wide array of lists as well. Most played deck this season has been Warrior, but they've played Ritual Chaos almost as much. They were the Machine Gate player as well, getting a win with that list, which is really fun. And they're also capable of playing Chaos Turbo. So this is a player that is leading their team in terms of win rate, but also doing it on tons of different lists. That's going to make it very, very difficult for 400s to prep against, because really these players could come with anything in any given week. Other players to note on this team, Confuse Ray, with the 6-4 record, bringing chaos control every single week, definitely making up a very significant portion of this pie chart here. And then lots of other very solid players as well. The one thing I do want to point out, this is a team that doesn't have as many star players as 4Hunnids, right? But does have a very, very deep bench. Lots of players with close to, if not exactly 300 or 500, records, using that kind of as a benchmark. So same record as 4Hunnids in the regular season, which means that they're not really led by a couple, maybe hard carries is a term you might use, like 4Hunnids might be. It's more of a team where any single player can kind of step up week to week, leading to a very, very deep roster, which might prove an advantage to them when it's 6v6 now that we're in the playoffs instead of 5v5 in the regular season. Cool. So now going into the exact pairings here for week 1, we can see 4Hunnids did choose to bring both of their, midseason acquisitions to the playoffs here. Leo P and Yada both being rostered, as well as a lot of the other, most commonly played players. No real surprises here, I don't think. B.A.D.S here played, most of their solid players as well. No matchups between any of the MVP candidates, unfortunately, here, but that doesn't mean that that's not possible in future rounds. Remember, this is a survival style playoff, so anyone who wins round 1 will then pair up against someone else on the other team who did win their week 1 matchup. So not really any crazy blockbuster matches here so far, but definitely could have some later on down the line. Now for round 1 though, I did want to show you guys a feature match like I like to do. I chose Yada88 versus Megistunis. 2 players, like I said, Yada88, MVP contender this season. Megistunis also had a very respectable record so far this season. I believe they were 4-2 in the regular season. Yada88, we already kind of saw. They like to play some sort of chaos strategy. Depending on the week, they'll bring control or turbo or warrior. So really kind of up in the air what they might bring here for the playoffs. Megistunis, so we just flip back to this other tab. They seem to be, once again, 50-50 almost between, or 50-50 exactly, between turbo and chaos control. So both players who like those more fair decks, but could, kind of change up exactly what they're playing depending on the week. So let's hop right into this feature match here. So now, before I get into this, I do want to say I did randomize which player we are watching the side of. If you guys are in the GOAT Format War League Discord, you know that the winner of the match has to report. So if you watch any replays, the winner will always be in the red corner. However, I did flip a coin to decide who we will be watching from the perspective of. So it's not guaranteed that, which player is going to win here. Let's hop right into it, though. Looks like Meji is going to win that rock, paper, scissors, shoot. So that is pretty solid for them. Really interested to see what both of these players chose to bring here in the playoffs, considering they both like to switch up their decks a little bit. Meji is going to lead out with a Delinquent Duo, so off to a really good start here already. One of the best cards in the format, going to be able to likely go up +1 against Yada, unless they have some sort of insulation in their hand, like a Sinister Serpent. Let's see, they hit a Graceful Charity, though. Okay, so Trinity ripping out the opponent's Trinity piece. That feels pretty good. And then Yada did have the insulation there with the Sinister Serpent to make it so the duo wasn't just a pure +1. However, losing your Graceful early on, especially with the Sinister in hand to pair with it, is going to make Meji pretty happy, if I had to guess. And then we've got normal summon Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, set a back row, pass. So definitely threatening the Sinister Serpent in future turns. Yada has to be very careful about when that hits the grave, because it could just end up getting banished from this Kaiku. But pretty much all square here through the first turn. Despite the duo opening, Yada at least had the insulation to not fall too far behind. Yada here is going to regrab that Sinister Serpent. We'll see if there's any Trap Dust Shoot action for Meji. Looks like no. So we'll get to main phase 1, and Yada is just going to set a couple back row pass. So no real inkling of what both players are playing. These are all just kind of staples shown so far. So not exactly sure what the matchup is going to be yet. But all square here through the first couple turns. Meji can just start beating in with this Kaiku, though. 1,800 points of damage straight to the dome. And that's going to connect. All right, so early life point lead, early board lead here for Meji. Off to a decent start. And then we're going to go main phase 2, discard Thunder Dragon. So, as expected, bringing some sort of chaos strategy here. The main deck Kaiku does make me lean a little bit more towards... Well, actually, no. Meiji doesn't seem to play Chaos Warrior, so this could kind of just be in either Turbo or Control. So not really certain exactly what they're playing yet. We'll have to see if there's any Scapegoat stuff that Meiji's playing or not. But yeah, just going to fire off that Thunder Dragon, pass turn, thin the deck, get a Light Engrave, all that good stuff, and then continuing to threaten with this Kaiku. We're going to get End Phase Mystical Space Typhoon on this back row, though. All right. It is something chainable, though. Oh, and Meiji's going to chain it on their own Kaiku just to deal 1,800 points to both players. So Yada actually getting a nice little +1 here, trading the MST for both the Ring and the Kaiku. But, Meiji's not going to be self-killing their own Kaiku without good reason, so have to assume they have some sort of plan here where they don't want this Kaiku to remain on the board. Maybe worried about a potential snatch steal or something like that. Yada here is going to fire off Jar of Greed, dig into the deck a little bit more, nothing crazy. And we're going to go normal summon Asura Priest. Okay, so main deck Asura Priest definitely makes me think Yada is running Chaos Control. You don't really see that in Warrior or Turbo, at least main decked. And this is going to be a nice 1,700 point attack here for Yada to once again take the lead in life points. They're going to set a back row here to keep Meiji on their toes. But really interesting back and forth game here so far. Meiji here, as we saw before, had to ring their own Kaiku, or felt like they had to ring their own Kaiku. So interested to see if maybe they have like a premature burial or something to bring it back. We're going to go normal summon Breaker. Pretty good card. Use that to maybe pop this back row before getting in. Now that you know your opponent is most likely on Chaos Control, you do have to be ready for like a Scapegoat or something. So this could be something chainable, but you still probably fire off the Breaker anyway, just in case it's like a Mirror Force or something. Going to hit a Solemn Judgment, another very good card to hit with the Breaker. So nice little plus there for Meiji, and has a Breaker here to threaten the opponent. It will die to the Asura Priest on the crackback, but at least you got some card advantage and some damage in the meantime. And if you have some sort of back row to protect the Meiji, or to protect the Breaker as well, might not even have to worry about this Asura Priest. Yeah, so we are going to set a back row, at least give Yada something to think about. We'll see if they go for the Asura Priest play, or if they have something else up their sleeve. Gonna go for the Asura Priest, just try and beat over the Breaker. Hit in 4/100, sure. And then set a back row pass, so not really falling. I guess Meiji just set their back row potentially as a bluff. Nothing to answer that Asura Priest. Not the end of the world, of course, since the Breaker did already answer a card. But now Meiji's going to have to find a little bit more offense here. Both players pretty low on life here, though. Meiji, okay, so has Light, Dark, and Grave. We're going to go ahead and slam down Chaos Sorcerer. Another monster in hand could be lethal damage already. 2,300 attack points coming in. We're going to go normal summon Gravekeeper Spy to put lethal on board. Yada88, do you have Scapegoat? Do you have another sort of out to this? Or is this just GG for game one? They take 12, okay? So Scapegoat would need to come out right now. And they don't have it, okay. So Meiji just going to take down game one pretty quickly there. Off to a solid start. Had the turn one duo, hitting Graceful Charity, which is always really nice. And then just had, enough aggression with Kaiku, followed by Breaker, followed by Chaos Sorcerer to close out the game. And we're going to go to game two here. Yada88 seems to be on a Chaos Control list. Still not entirely sure what Meiji is on. Could be Control, could be Turbo. Haven't seen any Scapegoats from either player, so still kind of up in the air. But Yada will be able to go first in game two, which I'm sure they will like. They do open a Thunder Dragon, which is pretty nice. Getting those out of the list. Ooh, open double Thunder Dragon, though. Hate to see it. Basically opening down a card. Very much a low roll. And suddenly Meiji is just in a really, really solid position here. Yada's going to set a back row pass. And Meiji knows that there's essentially two dead cards in Yada's hand. So good time to get aggressive if you can, to really pressure the opponent while they're down. Meiji's going to fire off Pot of Greed. So while Yada is down a card, Meiji's about to go up a card. So really solid start here once again. We're going to go fire off Thunder Dragon of their own. They do not have two copies in their hand, so already off to a much stronger start than Yada had. They're going to go set a couple back row pass, so no threats to pressure Yada just yet, but they are winning the card advantage war so far. Yada here, just going to draw a pass. Yeah, just trying to find a way to unbrick their hand, most likely. Has to play a little bit reactive while they just have some dead cards floating around. Meiji finds a Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. Very good in these Chaos Mirror matches, of course. and a nice little threat to pressure Yada when you know that their hand is not so good. Beat in for 18. Scapegoat is going to come out here, though, so confirming that Yada is on Chaos Control, kind of as expected from last game. And we will be able to wall out the Kaiku, prevent the graveyard from getting banished. So nice play there, just to buy some time. Meji is going to kill one of the tokens. Sometimes you leave it there to give them less monster slots, but Meji's saying, you know what, let me get aggressive. Let me clear out these goat tokens and try and pressure the opponent's life points as fast as possible. Yada here is going to go summon Breaker the Magical Warrior. Okay, so this is a 1900 attack point monster for the time being, which is strong enough to get over Kaiku. So the greediest play possible would be Breaker beat over the Kaiku, then main phase 2, Breaker effect, pop a back row, which I feel like is probably the play here, because if you pop something in the main phase 1, you can't get over the Kaiku anymore, so it seems to kind of defeats the purpose of playing the Breaker, right? We are just going to pop one here in main phase 1, though. So maybe Yada is setting up for a little bit bigger of a play. Maybe they have like Creature Swap or Metamorphosis in hand that they want to be able to make sure resolves. So trying to answer one of these back row to make it less likely that Meji has an answer. It is going to be a Raigeki break, though. So Meji's going to chain that, discard one of the Thunder Dragons we knew about, and likely just going to pop the Breaker here is my guess. Yep. So yeah, Breaker just kind of trading. Actually ended up being a decent trade for this Breaker, though. You traded for Raigeki break plus a Thunder Dragon in hand, so slight win there for Yada. And this also gets Light Dark Engrave for Yada if they have a Chaos Monster in hand. Has to do with the Kaiku effect, preventing Chaos Monsters from being summoned. But if you can remove this Kaiku somehow, like with a Thousand Eyes Restrict or something, you'll have Chaos lined up. So Yada fighting their way back into this game. Ooh, and they did have a creature swap. All right, so we're going to go turn a token into attack position, because that is going to be the one that Meji will end up with when this creature swap resolves. So the Kaiku can attack over it and deal some damage and get its effect off. So if the swap can resolve, going to be pretty nice for Yada. Meji is going to chain Raigeki break, though, once again killing their own Kaiku. Last game it was a Ring of Destruction. This time it's Kaiku, or this time it's Raigeki break. But both times, very, very worried about Yada probably getting control of that Kaiku and, you know, ransacking their graveyard. And now this creature swap will just fizzle, and yeah, going to be in an interesting spot here with Meji once again, you know, removing their own board out of an abundance of caution. Yada has no follow-up play, having already used their normal summon per turn. No chaos to play just yet. Maybe they could just not want to use it. We'll see if Meji has another threat here now that their Kaiku is gone. Gonna go summon Tribe Infecting Virus. That is a pretty nice way to deal with Scapegoat tokens, when we know they have another Thunder Dragon in hand as discard fodder, if they so choose. That's what we'll see. Yep. Oh, we're going to discard Metamorphosis. Okay, so keeping... Oh, sorry, no, the other Thunder Dragon is already in the grave. Right, because of the Raigeki break. That makes sense. So 2 Raigeki breaks, 2 Thunder Dragons used as discards. So we're going to discard a Metamorphosis, which signifies that Meji is also on control, by the way. So this is just a classic Chaos Control mirror. So Yada, as mentioned in the team deep dives, right, brought in, I think, to kind of be a little bit of a control specialist potentially for this team to shore up the fact that 4Hunnids was under-indexing a little bit there, and running into Chaos Control from B.A.D.S, which is one of their most played decks, so definitely not an unexpected matchup, I guess. Tribe will clear out all those goat tokens and then try to beat in for 16. So nice aggressive play here for Meji, gonna get First Blood, and has another threat on, and you know, has a threat on board to continue to apply pressure as well, which is really nice. Gonna set a back row down a little bit in terms of card advantage, just from having to like Raigeki break a bunch. But we do know that Yada still has 2 dead Thunder Dragons in hand, so it's not real card advantage for Yada until they can find like a Graceful Charity or something. Yada here is gonna go for Chaos. Okay, we're gonna slam down a Chaos Sorcerer. As mentioned previously, just got that Light Dark Engrave. And we're going to go ahead and banish that Tribe Infecting Virus, clearing the way. Just going to pass turn, start threatening next time. Nice little +1 there for Yada. Sork, a very, very good card. Meji here is going to go and summon Chaos Monster of their own. And, you know, BLS beats Chaos Sorcerer. Definitely pretty happy to have that one there. Yeah. Now you have the option to attack over the Sork and try and deal a bunch of damage by attacking twice. that does lose to like Raigeki Break or Sakuretsu Armor or Mirror Force or things like that. So safe play would just be to banish the Sork and then threaten to attack later on, kind of like what we just saw out of Yada. But we'll see if Meiji wants to get aggressive or not. No Prio. Okay, so Meiji not using their opportunity to go for the B.A.D.S effect right now. So if Yada had like a Ring of Destruction or a Raigeki Break or something, they could use it now before the B.A.D.S had the chance to use its effect again, signifying that Meiji is probably going to try and attack here, is my guess. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go for big damage, but Yada had the Mirror Force. Wow, so Meiji getting a little bit greedy there. Could have just answered the Sork for free, basically, but now instead running into the Mirror Force, and their B.A.D.S will hit the grave, and the Sork will stand alone once again on the field. Meiji at least has a normal summon to set in the way of this Chaos Sorcerer, but that seems like a pretty massive moment where Meiji maybe got a little bit ahead of themselves and ran into this Mirror Force. We'll see if Yada can capitalize on the strongest monster in Meiji's deck getting answered relatively easily. Yada is going to go attack in with the Sork. Hits a Magician of Faith. Okay, so Pot of Greed in the graveyard is a pretty good card to grab back for Meiji. Good way to find their way back into this game, just resolving those cards. Yada will go ahead, set a monster and a back row, but expecting to see this Pot of Greed get fired off here from Meiji. We're going to go duo first. Pretty nice. So pot plus duo late in the game. Still Trinity pieces, though. Not going to complain. We can go duo, rip out 2 cards from the hand. We hit a Magician of Faith. Wow, okay, so we knew Yada's hand was Thunder Dragon, double Thunder Dragon, and an unknown. Meiji high rolling with this duo, hitting the one real card in the hand. And Yada's got to feel pretty bad about that. And now Meiji can fire off their own Pot of Greed here, going up to 3 cards in hand. Playing around Trap Dust Shoot. Find Snatch Steal as well. That's pretty insane. What a turn. Duo into Pot into Snatch Steal. Just all of the staple spells decimating Yada's board and hand. And we've got Nobleman of Crossout to deal with the set monster to clear the way to attack in with this Chaos Sorcerer. Now there's no Mirror Force to worry about, so this is a lot more likely to get through. This is just a massive turn for Meiji here. Gonna banish Gravekeeper Spy too, so both players will banish any remaining copies of that card from their list. And now Sork can get in for 23. Yeah, really massive turn for Meiji. Looked like they were, kind of stumbling a little bit, but when you have Duo Pot Knock, it's pretty good. Duo Pot Snatch Knock, I should say. Pretty solid turn. And we have a monster here to set in phase 2 as well. Could be another Magician of Faith, threatening another spell regrab. Could be Dekoichi or something. Two potentially major threats for Yada to worry about here. Let's see. Yada will be able to gain 1,000 life in their standby phase from the Snatch Steal. They topped out Graceful Charity, though, so with that one Thunder Dragon left in hand, they will finally be able to cash it in. This will resolve. I'm going to discard Thunder Dragon and another card, most likely. Yep, TD plus a Jar of Greed, basically just a blank. Let's see what 2 cards they kept and if they do anything against Meiji's board. Okay, we've got Knock for the new set. Hitting Sinister Serpent. Okay, decent card to knock. So not a real threat, but you're still pretty happy hitting that with the knock, I think. And we're just going to pass turn. Okay, so no out to the Sork just yet. It is only kind of 1,300 damage a turn thanks to the Snatch Steal. But this is, very much keeping this board on lockdown for the time being. Yeah, let's get in for 23 again. Totally fine. And then just pass turn. Okay, so maybe drew another Chaos Monster. Only Lights Engraved, so unable to play it. Or maybe it's like a dead Trap Dust Shoot or something like that. Yada once again gains 1,000. Gonna go normal summon Tribe. Okay, so has an answer to the Sork. Tribe discards Serpent, so getting the free plus there. Sork will hit the grave. And that's actually a really nice sequence of draws there for Yada. Drawing into, maybe it could have been Serp and then Tribe, or I guess you probably drew into Tribe first, and then top decked the Serp to get the discard for it. Because if you drew the Serp last turn, you probably set it in the way of the Sorcerer, if I had to guess. But now, the board is clear here for Yada to start applying pressure of their own with this Tribe. Meiji has the Ring of Destruction, though. Tribe will hit the grave. Both players will take 1,600 points of damage, and Yada will drop down to 2,200 life points. So Meiji close to closing this one out. Near top deck scenarios for both players is pretty interesting when you're in a control mirror. And let's see who has the heart of the cards here to close this one out. Meiji just has a back row to set, nothing crazy. Yada can at least regrab the Sinister Serpent, so that's a nice advantage in these top deck scenarios. is, Serp is really good when it can just do a lot of stuff when neither player has any cards. Top deck Pot of Greed from Yada. Okay, so these late deck Trinity top decks, or late game Trinity top decks, I should say, are doing wonders for their ability to stay in this match. And they're going to go set a monster, 2 back rows, so we know the set monster is Sinister Serpent, with a couple back row behind it that are unknown. We'll see what Meji can do in this scenario. Let's see, just going to draw a go. Okay, Yada might have found a way to stabilize here. Jar of Greed, dig even further into the deck. Into normal summon Sangan. Okay, that is a nice, difficult to deal with threat to start peppering Meji with some damage. Get in for 1,000. We're going to scapegoat here for Meji, though. Interesting play. You could afford to take 1,000 damage. It's not the end of the world. But maybe is going to go for like 1,000 Eyes or a creature swap play. Probably not creature swap, because you don't really want Sangan. But maybe setting up for a Metamorphosis play. And we'll start taking control over the board again. Yep, fill up that token, or fill up that board with goat tokens. Sangan will kill one of them, leaving Meji with 3. Let's see if they have any follow-up play available to them here. Just gonna pass. Okay, so just saying, you know what, I don't feel like taking damage from Scapegoat, or damage from Sangan here, but slowly but surely the Sangan will be able to kind of march through these. Yada, if they want, they can also flip up their Serpent and kill 2 this turn to really amp up the clock, right? We're just going to go attacking with 1 Sangan, slowly but surely remove these goat tokens from the board. Okay, Meji with the top deck Graceful Charity is pretty nice, though, finally finding their last Trinity piece. We'll see if they have anything good to discard in hand. No Sinister, no Thunder Dragon. Haven't seen any Night Assailants, so maybe this is just First Infiltration. Going to discard Mirror Force and Sangan. 2 cards that don't do too much at this point in time. You don't really want to be Mirror Forcing a Sangan, right? Let's see what we kept. Okay, so Sangan was the Dark Engrave that they needed to go for a Chaos Monster, likely having that in hand for quite some time here, and they just weren't able to get a Dark Engrave until they found that Graceful Charity, so pretty nice top deck. Sork's going to come down. You can go banish this Sangan, which is the easiest way to deal with that card in the format for the most part, and suddenly Meji is now back in a pretty solid position. We know this set monster is Sinister Serpent, so not going to do anything to deal with this Chaos Sorcerer. And Yada has another big threat that they need to deal with now. Okay, we're going to go Metamorphosis, turning that Sinister Serpent into a 1,000 Eyes Restrict, sucking in this Sorcerer, and suddenly Yada, once again, is the one with the big threat on the board. 2,300 attack point, 1,000 Eyes Restrict. Can start whittling away at these goat tokens. Locking down the board, going to make it hard for Meji to answer. Notably, Meji does not have Chaos Live again, because they just banished their only dark. So it's going to be tough to deal with this 1,000 Eyes. Yeah. Needs like Tribe or something, or 1,000 Eyes of their own. Yada going to set a couple back row here, really protecting this 1,000 Eyes as much as possible. We'll see what Meji can do. Going to go Brain Control. Okay, that's pretty neat. Brain Control on the 1,000 Eyes. That will steal it for the turn. Going to beat in for 23. I mean, this is just lethal, right? Brain Control for game, is this going to be it? Or does Yada have Scapegoat? Or Mirror Force is gone, so you need Scapegoat, or you need like a Raigeki Break or something. Otherwise, this is just GG. Scapegoat is going to come out. Okay, so Meji forcing that out. This will load up the board for Yada. You could just not attack one and then leave them kind of goat locked. That doesn't seem too bad. But Meji is going to kill one. Okay, so maybe saying, I want to kill the opponent sooner rather than later, so I'd rather make it easier for me to get through this goat wall rather than limit my opponent's options. Definitely an interesting choice there. Could go either way, but Meji is going to go for the more aggressive of the 2 choices. And then just going to pass turn, Brain Control effect wears off. 1,000 Eyes goes back, still staring down a goat token, but once this is out of the way, suddenly this is a 2-turn clock, right? So Yada in a decent spot here. Can regrab that Sinister Serpent. Gonna go duo here, rip out 2 cards from Meji's hand. Pretty nice. Snags a Kaiku, and then another Kaiku discarded. Wow. Okay, so we've got triple Kaiku in the Chaos Control Mirror. I mean, hey, it's a good card against Chaos, right? 3 might be overkill, but, is what it is. Both are gonna hit the grave thanks to that duo, though. And now, as expected, 1,000 Eyes will kill the goat token. And now the board is open for Yada to attack in for a 2-turn clock. Meji will draw for turn, draw go. Okay, so going to take at least 23 here. Yada gets the pass with lethal on board. Might have finally stabilized at 1200 life. Meji needs to find something, otherwise it will be GG. Gonna go T-set pass. Okay, Yada. Do you have an out here? Knock on the Asura Priest. Attacking for 23. Is this gonna be it for game 2? And yes, it is. Wow, okay, so Yada able to grind that one out, force a game 3. Another very, very back and forth match that they're gonna take down. And we are going to head on to game 3 in this Chaos Control mirror match here in round 1 of this wild card match. Remember, these players are playing for their lives in the survival style wild card playoff match to try and guide their team into victory and into qualification for the quarterfinals. Meji here will be able to go first in game 3, opening Thunder Dragon, not having 2 in hand already, so off to a solid start. Has a Kaiku to normal summon and a back row to potentially protect it. Decent start, no Trinity pieces, but still some solid advantage so far. Yada has a Delinquent Duo in the opener, though. Okay. Now, Meji is a little bit insulated from this because they have double Thunder Dragon in hand, so there's no guarantee that this duo will hit a real card. But decent chance, 60% chance that this random choice hits a non-Thunder Dragon. It's going to hit a Metamorphosis. Okay, so Yada does hit a real card. Likely see a Thunder Dragon hit the grave alongside it. Yeah, as expected. But, decent duo there. Yada has Thunder Dragon of their own as well. This time not opening double, so both players able to get full value out of their Thunder Dragons. Ooh, and Yada has Graceful Charity here as well. So duo into TD Graceful, going to immediately cash those in and go up a full card. We're going to discard, double Thunder Dragon, so cash those 2 in for 2 real cards. Looking really good here for Yada. This is how you draw it up when you're adding Thunder Dragon to your deck, right? And now we can go set a monster with a couple back row, get in the way of this Kaiku. You want to protect your graveyard from it, of course. Knock would be good for Meji here if they have it. Just going to go attack into the set. It is Sangan. Okay, so Yada's just going to get a nice little search here. Nothing crazy. Going to grab the Sinister Serpent. A little bit of an interesting choice because Tsukuyomi is a good option if you play it to answer this Kaiku pretty easily, but maybe already has it in hand or has like a Raigeki Breaker or something that they need discard fodder for, potentially. In which case Sinister is a little bit better. Meji going to set a back row pass with this Kaiku still bearing down. Yada is going to go normal summon Tribe. Okay, so if you had Tribe in hand, this Sinister Serpent grab definitely makes sense to give you a free discard for this. Use your priority, discard Sinister Serpent, call Spellcaster, and kill the Kaiku. And then get in for 1,600 points of damage. Meji has the Sakuretsu armor, though, to answer the Tribe. However, Tribe does just get a nice little +1 here, right? You basically traded Tribe for Kaiku plus Saku. So, Yada's likely pretty happy about that regardless, even if they're unable to get in for some damage. Yada will set a back row pass. We get End Phase Scapegoat from Meji. Interesting play there. I wonder if there's no need to go for like a Thousand Eyes play, right? When Yada has no monsters on board. So I wonder what the End Phase Scapegoat is in preparation for. Because the obvious cards to combo with it don't really do anything at this point in time. Surely there's no like United We Stand or something, right? Okay, we're going to go Heavy Storm. All right, so Meji going for something big here. Oh, so maybe that was the idea. Meji wanted to go for a Heavy Storm play, so they wanted to just use their Scapegoat in the end phase to get it out of their back row, so that the Heavy wouldn't, kill any of their own cards. Yada has Scapegoat and Jar to chain, though, so this is just going to be a 1-for-1 Heavy trading with the Sakuretsu armor, and now the field will just be filled up with these Goat tokens, and this game might just grind to a halt here, unless Meji has like a Asura Priest. That would go crazy. And they're right on cue. Asura Priest hitting the board here for Meji. Going to clear out all these Goat tokens. A huge win here by forcing out the Scapegoat while you still have your normal summon. Asura Priest is just going to completely wipe the board. And yeah, Heavy plus Asura Priest. Pretty good combo to just decimate everything your opponent has done so far. And yeah, now the board is completely clear. You still have all of your Goat tokens. Going to pass turn, so if Yada has Asura of their own, that'd be pretty nice for them. But definitely a solid win there for Meji on that turn. Yada has Asura of their own, though. Okay, so tit for tat here. Both players just using Asura as board wipes. Yada going to add a back row as well, and we're pretty much all square. Yada even up a couple cards here, I guess, right? Yeah, thanks to just that earlier Graceful and the duo. Meji, let's see, just going to go set a monster pass. Unlikely to be that Asura Priest we know about, because that would just get killed by the opponents. Yada's just going to set a monster. Okay, so some fireworks the last couple turns, but now we've slowed it down. This is back to standard control mirror stuff, right? Meji does have a Chaos Monster, though. And yeah, I was going to say, if we're summoning it into a set monster, pretty much always is going to be B.A.D.S. So we can go ahead, get a nice little plus. Banishing Gravekeeper Spy. Okay, so B.A.D.S. getting some good value there. And then Meji can flip summon Gravekeeper Spy of their own, saying, I don't care if you have Torrential Tribute. Kind of playing right into that, but not guaranteed to be in Yada's list. We're going to summon one in defense to play around. Well, I guess because we know Asura Priest is in hand for Yada. So you don't want to summon these both into attack position and then just get owned by Asura Priest. So Spy's going to get in for 12. Like, could just die on the crackback from the Asura, but at least you still have the other one to wall for you. Get in for 12, sure. Yada here draws for turn. Asura Priest can just clear out that one attack position Spy. Not the end of the world for Meji. Still has this B.A.D.S. on board, which you're pretty happy about. We're just going to go get in for some damage here. B.A.D.S. going to attack in for 3k. Yada's going to take that. Wow, so no immediate outs to this B.A.D.S. They are now in Ring of Destruction range, which is pretty scary. Neither player has played that yet. Meji suddenly in a really good spot. Anytime you can summon B.A.D.S. and have it stick around for more than one turn, you're generally going to be pretty happy. And this game is no exception. Meji now passing with lethal on board. Thanks to this B.A.D.S. Back row here to potentially protect it as well. Yada needs to find an out. Otherwise, it's just GG. Okay, Chaos of their own is a solid out. Dueling B.A.D.S. is here. Yada thinking about if they want to banish it or if they want to get aggressive and clear out both of these monsters at the same time. Yeah, we're gonna go B.A.D.S. banish the Gravekeeper Spy. Okay, so maybe has another way to deal with this. Maybe a Mind Control, maybe a Snatch Steal. Sinister Serpent summon, and we're gonna go for Creature Swap. Okay. Saying, you know what? You know what's better than one B.A.D.S.? Two B.A.D.S.s. I like it. Gonna steal it. That resolves. And suddenly... Oh, no, Meji's thinking... Oh, we're gonna Raigeki break the opponent's Sinister Serpent. Wow. Okay. So this is... this is a lot invested in killing a Sinister Serpent. But now the Creature Swap resolves. And both players, I guess, just swap their own B.A.D.S.s. That's pretty funny. I've never seen that before. Oh, but Yada has the Solemn Judgment. Dropping out to 1400, but protecting this play. And now they will be the proud owner of Double Black Luster Soldier. And not only are you the proud owner of Double Black Luster Soldier, it's B.A.D.S. that's going to be able to beat over the Sinister Serpent and then get in an extra attack as well. So this is 5,700 points of damage in one battle phase out of nowhere. And both players are just super, super low on life right now. Yada has double B.A.D.S. on the field, which is definitely more than enough to close out this game. But will they be able to survive with only 1,400 life points here? Meji, lethal, facing down lethal. Snatch Steal is alive, though. Okay, gonna steal their own B.A.D.S. back. Asura Priest. Is this just gonna be game? Normal summon Asura Priest. I guess, do you go... How do you win here? Oh, is it B.A.D.S. attack both monsters? Like B.A.D.S. attack the set, then trade with the other B.A.D.S. and then Asura Priest get in for game? Is that the play? Yeah, that's what we're going to go for. Faith dies. Yada can grab back something, but if this is just game, it doesn't matter. Kill B.A.D.S. And then Asura Priest for game. And there you have it. Wow. Meji staring down two B.A.D.S's, but had the Snatch Steal in a simplified board state to close it out. That is going to be 2-1 in this Chaos Control mirror. B.A.D.S. winning this game against Yada, one of their MVP candidates for 4Hunnids, so definitely has to be really happy with that win. Yeah, so that is a very, very solid win for B.A.D.S. in round one of this. And now, surprise for all of you, we do have the results of round one in here. So just wanted to kind of give you a feature match of one of them, just to kind of show you what the plays are like. However, that was just one of 6 victories here in round one for B.A.D.S. against 4Hunnids in this wildcard round. They completely swept them here. 6-0, every player on B.A.D.S. beating every player of 4Hunnids, so there will not be a single extra round played here at all. And B.A.D.S is going to secure this victory against 4Hunnids. Better luck next year. Solid season, qualified for the wildcard here. Got to see some postseason gameplay. But B.A.D.S here is going to take down this victory, qualify for the quarterfinals against either the first or second seed, depending on how the other wildcard match ends up turning out. So definitely tune in for next episode when we, go over the results of that one. But congratulations to B.A.D.S here for securing that quarterfinal qualification. And this is not going to be the last we see of this Greek team. So definitely tune in for some more GOAT format playoff content. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I will catch you all next time.